It is Gopher Football Weekly. Welcome back. It's week 2, and yes, there is going to be a football season. My name is Mike Grimm, along with Gopher Football Radio Network sideline reporter Justin Gaard from our flagship station, KFAN, and the head coach of the Golden Gophers, PJ Fleck, with us as well. And many of you are listening to us right now on the radio. We're also coming to you on social media. We have a Zoom meeting, so you can find us at gophersports.com if you want to see just how good looking that Justin Gaard guy really is, because he's quite the looker, right? Guardsy? No?
I'll just say this. It's been a rough quarantine for me. I'm glad I've got a couple of weeks to go before the season. As Coach would say, I think I've let the circumstances dictate my behavior when it comes to diet and things like that. So I'm going to try to rebound, though. I'm going to try to rebound here. Now that there's football, we talked about it last week. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can focus on something. So that's what I'm going to try to do.
I think you look fine. I was excited because they bought me this brand new camera, and I thought I'd look great. And then I look at myself, and I'm like, "What the hell? No, that's no good." Camera.
We belong in the 70s. We belong in the 70s with technology. The high def cameras not good for guys like us.
Makeup. Well, we do know the young head coach of the Golden Gophers is always looking good as well. Coach, good to see you. And yeah.
Look at these. I'm like a spokesperson for Botox on the before picture. I mean, look at this. No hair. I mean, I could be a hair club for men guy. I could be a Botox before. And do you see these things?
Yeah.
I tell you what, man, I'm getting older. 40 right around the corner here.
Yeah. Well,
it's a lot of potential endorsement opportunities, though. Red Savoy Pizza, you're brilliant on those commercials now. Those have taken the country by storm. We've got hair replacement. We've got, cucumber wraps for your eyes. We got all kinds of things we could do for you.
The more you can do, the longer you'll stick around. The pizza thing, that's just
amazing.
We all do crazy things in quarantine, and I guess I thought that was a really good idea. And I still remember the first edits that came back. I mean, Heather said, "Those are interesting," and she was right. So, but she knew that it was a good idea. I mean, I liked it. I love Red Savoy Pizza. First of all, I truly do. We get it all the time, but it was just something to do to fill some time. I mean, we were all home for a while, and it turned out to be really good. And they were really easy to work with, and they just said, "Be you." I said, "I can do that."
So, how many times on the kicker on? I think when the pizza delivery guy falls in the yard and you've got to pick him up, you caught the pizza, you were sprinting the whole time. First face you saw, loved that line, by the way, for a million reasons. How many times did you sprint up and down that sidewalk? How many takes did you need to do for that?
That was only 2 or 3. That was easy. That was the easiest part of the whole thing.
That's good.
The outtakes are probably – you were not sent the outtakes, but I was sent the outtakes. And the outtakes were the best part of the whole thing because you think it took a few times. It was a long day. I'm not the best actor, I don't think. I'm not good. I do everything I can to ad-lib.
Yeah. We'll get the outtakes. We'll get those on – we'll post it on some social media at some point. Someday we'll get it.
And once in a while, they're like, "Hey, Fleck, stay to the script. Stay to the script." I'm like, it sounds a little better, doesn't it? You like this? They're like, no, stay to the script. I was like, okay.
Yeah, nothing wrong with going off script a little bit. You know that it's like a game plan. You have the game plan, and then sometimes you have to switch the game plan at halftime or something. So I'll be honest, I've gotten more feedback probably on the PJ Fleck Red Savoy Pizza spots than anything in the last 3 months because first of all, not a lot's been going on, but I'm telling you,
not much going on. That just proves how bad it's been.
People are texting like, "Hey PJ, you see those commercials?" And most of it is like, "That's pretty cool," and then some they're like, "Well, that coach is a goofball," and I'm like, "Yeah, we love our goofball here. It's pretty cool."
Listen, it is what it is. I am who I am. I am who I am. And listen, it was fun. It was something fun to do, and quarantine was not as fun for, I think, everybody as we, for the first week, everybody was like, "Oh, we get an extra week off. This is great." And right. Then next month 1, month 2, month 3, and so the pandemic makes us all do a little crazy things. So like I said, it was a lot of fun. Great company to work with. I was really shocked of how it all gets pieced together. I love watching movies, but I've never watched a movie be done. And it just, even the commercial, it's just, you don't know what it's going to look like, right? You don't know really, you kind of see how something like the flow board or whatever it's called of this drawing of what it looks like from start till finish, but you really just don't know. And hey, hold on a second. Heather's FaceTiming me.
Oh, we got live.
This is good for the radio. Yeah.
This will be really good.
Mm-hmm. Happy birthday to Heather a few weeks back.
And I just missed it. But hey, I'm on the radio. Say hi.
Hello.
Hey, happy birthday, Heather.
We've been celebrating Heather's birthday for the last 4 months.
Well, this
got it.
I believe that.
Normal visit to Sensors in the middle of the radio show.
Yeah, it's like Sensors. So we're talking about the Red Savoy Pizza commercial. That's what we're talking about. We're actually getting done talking about that because Grimmy just called me a goofball.
No, I didn't. I said somebody texted and said that guy's a goofball, and I said we love our goofball.
We love our goofball, right?
Yeah.
We do love you are a goofball. That's okay. You gotta own it. That's what makes you fun.
Hanging up fire.
All right. Well, hey, that's it. Love you. Bye. I'm not sure what you wanted, but I didn't even ask.
That'll have to come.
We'll find out soon enough.
We're talking here. You mentioned the pandemic, and Heather timed that call well. And you've talked about this before. You guys, of course, have a mixed family, living in different places at times out throughout the country with travel restrictions and those kind of things. How difficult for you personally has that been? Or have you been able to make it work? I know you always try to find ways to make things work to get the family time you want and spend the quality time, if not in person, somehow otherwise.
We've definitely found a way to make it work more later in the quarantine than the beginning of the quarantine. The last thing we wanted to do, our whole family, right, was to be able to combine different families, send people back. We didn't know if, at the time you had it or you're going to be around somebody that had it. So it was very difficult at the time because there was multiple weeks in a row that we weren't able to see our kids. And there's people who have it way worse than us. But I think that was the most difficult part of the quarantine was the first month and a half where, our kids were, in complete, where they were at that particular time when the quarantine hit, where they were going to stay there. And we all made that family decision. Those are hard decisions to make because, it doesn't benefit you, but we know it's the best thing for our kids. But they were here this past weekend, had a great time. Went to the Mall of America like old times. It's a little different at the Mall of America these days with a lot of
how's the mall right now?
It's very unique. First of all, you got to make an appointment for everything. You want to go putt golfing? You got to make an appointment, right? We didn't know that, right? And so here we are. We're going to ride all these rides. Our kids are fired up. We get there, woo! And it's like going to the to Wally World and showing up, and Wally World's closed. Like you got to tell your kids you can't ride the rides because you didn't make an appointment. Then you're the schmuck. We were going to go, but Dad, didn't make an appointment, and so now we know though, they're only allowing 100 people in or 250 people in at a certain amount of time. And then those people leave and another 250 go in for 2 hours and makes it good for short lines, but not if you didn't prepare. I think we didn't prepare. So we took them to Benihana. We went over there for
nice.
For Heather's 7th birthday, I think we celebrated. So that was the 7th one to make sure that we had that type of day. The kids love that. They love Benihana. They love that type of meal.
Well, the bear out front should have told you, Coach. I hope you did not punch Marty Moose as you walked in.
No, but I was just couldn't believe that we couldn't go. I wasn't willing to take no for an answer, if that can surprise any of you. So I was like, all right, so what time, if I come back here at 4:00, right, and we can go in for like an hour, how does that work? Well, we got to put you on the waiting list. How do I get on the waiting list? Well, if we're going to have dinner at 7, can I at least get in from 6:30 to 7? Well, we're closed. Okay. I mean, I was doing everything I could. Just didn't work, so.
Yeah. That is a real life vacation right there for sure. Guardsy, you're up.
Well, I'm curious, what did you do with the uncertainty of the summer and when we were all shut down? You mentioned the pandemic, you mentioned the quarantine. Obviously, there was a lot going on in the Twin Cities that your players were involved with when it comes to George Floyd and social justice. It was just a crazy summer here. But how did you kind of move through the summer, get through the summer, all while not knowing exactly what was going to happen this fall?
Yeah, the best, or the thing that we did was just focus on now. We talked to our kids every single day about now. Focus on now. The only thing you can control is now. We did everything we could to keep every team meeting, position meeting, Zoom meeting, just like they normally would have it. But it was done in a way, obviously, with technology and Zoom. That was the only difference. But we did everything we could to keep things focused on now. Did everything we could to make sure that our guys had as normal of an experience, even if it was virtual, as they possibly could have. And then, with our family, we spent a lot of time at the lake. We were at the lake probably more than we normally would be, not out on the lake, but just at the lake house, down on the dock, and just kind of being around that house for a while. So, it gave us time in a very stressful time to be in, kind of a really cool environment, a peaceful environment where you're seeing bald eagles, go over your head, made you really appreciate the things that you have in your life, and really brought us, back to what's really important. So that's our family. So we got to spend time a lot with our family, which was good. But I'm sure Heather wanted me to go back to work after the first few days that I was home.
Well, let's take our first break here as we are into week number 2 of Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck. Justin Gaard, Mike Grimm with you with the head coach here, and we'll take the break. This is Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck, Mike Grimm, and Justin Gaard with you. The head coach, PJ Fleck, with us as well. Gopher football on the verge of happening late October into November. It'll be a little bit later finish to the season, but hopefully good things certainly will happen. Coach, we'll put you on the spot here a little bit. How has the team responded now with the news that there is going to be a season, of course, assuming everything, flows smoothly health-wise for the entire conference from here till the projected start date? How's the team responded? What have you seen from them?
Well, they're fired up. This is the group that opted in. This is the group that wants to be here, that wants to go through the season, understands all the protocols, understands where we've been since March all the way through now. This is the group that's ready to roll. So they were just waiting for the date like today, and a day like, being able to get the news last week and be able to go forward. So, and that's what we'll continue to do. They're ready to go. We'll get them ready to go, just like we did last week. We'll do the very similar type things this week until we can get into our pads and go from there. But they're really excited. They're fired up. And we just can't wait to get to October 24th.
What type of conversations did you have with players about opting in or opting out? Or what type of questions did they have, even going back to August, Coach, when there was a lot of uncertainty on whether leagues were going to try to do it? What were kids wondering about, the questions that were coming your way that you tried to give them answers for? Yeah,
the biggest 2 questions was health and safety and then eligibility, right? How does that affect that, right? And I think those questions have all been answered. And I think that's, when I met with every single player at my press conference, I talked about this a month and a half ago, I think. I met with every single kid on the team and asked them, what do you feel about the Big Ten's decision? And they all started with, Coach, I want to play. I want to play. If you're asking me if I want to play, I want to play. I said, I'm asking you if you want to play, but I'm also asking you, how do you feel about the decision? And a lot of them went through the same thing. There's a grief a little bit, like, well, I wanted to play, but I'm really sad we're not playing. And I really want to play. However, I now know that the Big Ten has our best interest at heart. Like, they want to take care of us. They want to make sure they create a very COVID-free zone. And maybe right now they can't do that. So my thing was, they all wanted to play, but they also all said that we're just glad that somebody's keeping us safe somehow, some way. And I think that's a really powerful statement from players. Then they said, when it's safe again, we're ready to go whenever that takes place. But I think those are the 2 big things. The health and safety is obviously the most critical part. But then how does that affect my eligibility if I opt out or opt in?
Parents came to the forefront during this time, the last month or so. We had parent protests in Chicago. We had parent letters. How often did you or people on your staff talk to parents or hear from parents? I know, given how long you recruit these student athletes, you have relationships with the family as well. So how often did you hear from parents, and what types of questions did they have?
I heard from more of the players than just the parents. We have a very open line of communication with our parents. They know they can call anytime to ask any questions. We had some parents reach out, and we had wonderful conversations about all of it. But I think our players, from day one, we kept our players, and not saying anybody else hasn't, they have, we all have, but we always kept our players at the forefront and talked to them all the time. That lack, like we talked before last time, there's going to be a lack of communication at some point, and usually it gets filled with negativity. We never wanted that lack of communication ever, so nobody could sit there and fill it with negativity. We gave them the facts that we knew the facts upon. We were okay with answering a question, I don't know. And we were able to keep everybody in the loop that they had an open line of communication at any point to come talk to us. We would talk to them, and we would go through this thing together, hand in hand, arm in arm. And that's what we did. But every day we were constantly talking to our players of the knowledge or the information we were getting somehow, some way. Our players were on the field practicing, and I'd be on a Big Ten call, and they knew that I was on a Big Ten call. And I tell them what happened after that Big Ten call. But I also said that I'm here to be able to make sure they're all safe, period. Whether we play, whether we don't play, I'm not making the final decision. I said this before. I got an 18 on my ACT. Nobody's asking me if we should play or not. Nobody's asked me, PJ, should we play? They've never asked me that. But they have said, if we do play, what does it look like? If we don't play, what does it look like? And how can we keep everybody safe, right? And I think that, everybody did their very best with the information that they had. We did our very best with the information we had to make sure everybody was well informed. And here we arrived at a date where everyone now feels comfortable that we can play safely. And we have all the right protocols in place. And maybe in August, at that particular time, we didn't have all that in place, so it looked impossible. But as the medical technology and all the things that come forward and the advancements in medicine and the advancements of the knowledge of this virus come into play, there are way more things available now that weren't available maybe then. So, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm never going to pretend to be a doctor. But I just am in charge of our football team, and when I get instructions to do something, we're going to do it. And we're going to do it the best we possibly can. And my focus was on our players the entire time and our staff, nobody else. It was on us.
How has it been just having everyone now back on campus, whether it's weight training, whether it's a team trying to eat together, the protocols from that? What's a day like? And is it a lot different in terms of how your guys had to train and continue to train now this week into the future?
It's still very different. It's not as different today as it was last week or the last 4 weeks, but it's still different. You got. If we want to lift the whole team, you can only lift a certain amount of numbered players inside the weight room at one time. So if we're going to lift the whole team, that takes all day. I mean, that is a full day of just lifting. If you want to be able to practice, you can only have a certain amount of guys on a half side of a field. Not only that, you can only have a certain amount of guys outside compared to inside. So you're following all the state CDC guidelines along with our president and what we're communicating with of what we're allowed to do, what not allowed to do. And then you're throwing in eating. Then you're throwing in study hall, tutoring. It's just very unique. It's not like, team meetings, position meetings, some virtual, some still in person, different times. Not everybody can meet together. I haven't met with our full team unless we're able to have a scrimmage type format inside TCF Bank Stadium. So I haven't been with the whole team at one time in a long time. So it's one of those things that you have to find a way to adapt. You've got to find a way to improvise, and you got to make sure that it doesn't the product or the result doesn't decrease just because the circumstance changed. And I think we've done a really good job of making sure of that.
I mean, is it too like where if you have a couple of guys on the team, just even walking down the hallway, you are hoping that they're 6 feet apart, wearing a mask? I mean, just everyday kind of activity?
Well, yeah. I mean, inside this building, they're masked all the time, and we go out to practice. They have to have proper protocols out at practice that our training staff does a really good job of monitoring. So there's a lot of different rules that our players obviously understand. It's when they leave the facility that you want to make sure that those trained behaviors have become instinct at this point where they can be able to rely on the safety measures that have been taking place into their life to be able to make this a very safe environment when everybody enters.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. Justin Gaard will get a few more questions in for the head coach, PJ Fleck. It's Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck, Mike Grimm, and Justin Gaard with the head coach. And we want to thank Sunbelt Business Advisors. Onward for Business, presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. They want to be on your team when you buy or sell a business. Onward for Business is the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward, Sunbelt Business Advisors, proud to sponsor Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck. Guardsy, your turn.
Well, we mentioned you're doing a lot of things virtually and digitally. You had a couple spring practices, if I remember right, and then we were shut down.
Yep.
With your new offensive coordinator, Mike Sanford, like how has he been able to assimilate in with Coach Simon and what you guys want to try to do offensively? And how have you tried to get everything taught here in these, I guess it's been 5 or 6 months now as you prepare for the season? What's that transition been like?
Yeah, well, the transition, I mean, Mike is really, really intelligent. He's called plays for a lot of different teams. Our system isn't going to change dramatically. Mike's come here, learned our system. He's done a lot of that, our system at other places he's been. So it's made the transition very easy. Coach Simon knows our system inside and out. Mike's brought a lot of new philosophies, a lot of new ideas that I think is really good for this particular football team on offense as we continue to move forward. But we've been working throughout this whole pandemic. Coaches on Zooms, coaches in meetings. We've had position meetings forever. We've had offensive meetings and defensive meetings and special teams meetings forever. We've been able to get probably way more football than we naturally do in a normal season. Maybe not on the field football, but learning football we have. We've been practicing with a few breaks in between here for the last 6, 7 weeks. I think so since we've been allowed to do that. So we've had a lot of that. Plus now we've got our training camp model coming up that we're into right now. So, again, it's not ideal, but it's what we have. We had a lot of build up into spring ball. At least we got some spring ball practices. So we've been able to focus a lot more on football than we normally do in a normal year because of the recruiting, rules and laws that they put in place that have been able to extend the dead period. So it's really been more of a focus. And it's a lot of people look at it as a disadvantage. I look at it as an advantage of being able to have way more football with a new coordinator coming into the system.
Tanner Morgan talked about just their relationship and how he liked kind of how he was coaching him. What have you observed about not just specifically working with Tanner, but at the quarterback spot as well, about how that relationship is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Kirk Ciarrocca did a great job for me, for the teams we were involved with for 7 years, and really did an outstanding job of developing quarterbacks. Every coach brings something different to the table. Doesn't mean one's better in every area or worse in every area. Just means they bring something different. And I think that's what's really helpful and beneficial to our quarterback position right now is they have something different. Coach Sanford is high energy. He is an amazing teacher and educator at the fine fundamental skills of the quarterback position, let alone the big picture. And I think our quarterbacks have taken another right step and the next right step. Like they would have continued to take steps with Coach Ciarrocca. They've taken more steps and necessary steps forward with Coach Sanford. It's just a different voice. It's different teachings. It's different fundamental beliefs, but it's something different. And that's how you start to form a better quarterback by, again, lots of different opinions, lots of different teaching techniques, and then you find the ones that you really want to be able to work with as you move forward. So Coach Sanford's a blessing. He's been a wonderful, wonderful addition to our staff. He's high energy. He's an incredibly positive person. I think his meetings are so fun to be in, of listening to how he can relate and be able to get around our players and really get them to do things that they need to be able to do better moving forward.
As you see that offense now, last week we talked about, the two star receivers from last year, are gone. One is in the NFL. One is on his way to the NFL. How do you see that position playing out? Obviously, you have, a couple of guys back who have made very important plays in their careers. And I know you're excited about some of the young guys you've brought in.
Really excited about the young guys we've brought in. Obviously guys like Chris Altman-Bell has played a lot of football for us, scored a lot of touchdowns for us last year. He's going to have a huge role this year. We know that. We've got a lot of young guys coming up too. You look at guys like Doug Emelian, or you look at Daniel Jackson and those freshmen, they're going to have to play for us. You look at Seth Green being able to run Wildcat, but also now being able to play more wide receiver. And then you look at like our tight end position. I mean, we got some really good tight ends who can catch the ball. They've evolved. They've gotten better, and they're going to be involved in the pass game, maybe even more than in the past. So we have a lot of guys that have played, but also maybe haven't had the biggest role, that now they're going to have a huge role. And then we have guys who have not played who are going to have a major role. So it's going to be by committee at that position this year. Guy like a Clay Geary can really benefit from what's happening this year. So we've got a long way to go. A guy like Brock Annexsted's going to have he's going to be a contributor this year. It's just going to be a little bit more spread out than maybe it was last year with maybe just one or two guys. But, we hopefully don't miss a beat and we can continue to run our offense the way we are. But again, this is a different character of last year's team. It's got a different identity. It's not going to be exactly the same. Our offense won't look exactly the same as it was this year or last year. We're going to have to adapt some things to fit this year's skill, and we will definitely do that.
Well, along the lines of evolving, it was, Coach Ty basically is what people call Tyler Johnson. Obviously, Rashad moved into a leadership role. What have you observed from Crab in terms of the leadership? And obviously, Seth is one of your bigger leaders as well with that group and with those young guys, because now that's kind of their space to fill as well, I would assume.
Yeah, we always talk about the grasshopper, right? And you take a jar, put a grasshopper in it as a baby, and you put the cap on. And as that grasshopper grows, it's just going to be able to jump and keep hitting the ceiling. Well, that's what it's all going to know its entire life. And if you take the top of the jar off, the grasshopper will never jump out because it only jumps this high. So sometimes when you put a cap on something, you really don't know what the others can do, right? And we don't want to do that. And now possibly with Tyler gone and Rashad gone, maybe some of these other guys can jump out of the jar where maybe before, not nothing bad, just because of where their role was and because you had such talent in front of them, that maybe these guys can jump out of the jar and really step into that number 1, 2, 3 role and really be dominant players in our conference. But again, you know us, we're going to rely on our run game. You know how we do that. Especially with the season starting in the end of October, there's going to be all types of weather coming into TCF Bank Stadium and everywhere else we play. You've got to be able to start with the run game and then the play action game, drop back, and so on and so forth. So, but as we continue to get to know this team even more of what we're capable of doing, what we're not capable of doing, and it's not only just what you're capable of doing, there's also a COVID contingency plan of what we can do if we have these players and if we don't have these players.
I'm asking you about the 2 receivers that have left. I want to ask you about some of the guys on the other side of the football. Obviously, maybe the guy that had, in my time here covering the Gophers, that had more impactful plays than anybody was your safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., who, of course, is with the Buccaneers now. Obviously, Carter Coughlin, high-energy, high-character guy, Kamal Martin, Chris Williamson, all those guys getting their shot in some way, shape, or form in the NFL. I think the really intriguing spot to me is that safety spot because it was such a game changer last year with Antoine. And you have, again, young people that are now going to try to fight for playing time at that spot. What do you see from that early here in this kind of strange time of year?
Well, I think Joe Harris-Simiak's one of the best football coaches in general, just football coaches in the country. And he's done a great job with our safeties. You look at Jordan Howden's played a lot of football for us. He ends the game at Penn State, so we don't have to see the next play by a huge interception. Ends up saying, "We the champs," in his interview right after that. So he's even learned a lot in the media, which we had some great conversations with then and even now. But he has really grown up. He's 210 pounds, looks great. And then you look on the other side, which is a position that we've got to have a lot of guys rotate at. And Tyler Newbin's doing a really good job right now. Still a young player in terms of how much he's played, but can really play the game. Kelvin Swenson's a guy who's been here for a while. And he's one of Mr. Reliable. I mean, he can play and he knows what's going on. Our Flip, number 11. I mean, you guys are going to really, really enjoy him. So, but I think that it's a position that whether it's a safety or the nickel or the corner, we have some depth now in the secondary. And even though it might be youthful depth, we have some more depth. And I think there's going to be a lot of guys who rotate in and play. Like I said, Michael Dixon, who's going to be a really good safety one day. You're going to see him out there as well. And it doesn't count. So you don't have to worry about the 3-game rule or the 4-game rule. You don't have to worry about all that stuff anymore. Now you can just play everybody, including on special teams, and know you don't have that year to burn. I think that's really, really positive, really beneficial for us. But it's going to be fun to be able to see what we have. I think defensively, I think we're going to be deeper than we were last year. Deeper. Now, we're going to see if we're better, but I'm not saying that. We're going to find out when we play. But we'll definitely be deeper, and we're going to be deeper not only for this year, but we're going to be deeper for the years to come, which I think is going to be really beneficial for our defense. I know Coach Rossi's really excited.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll get Justin Gaard back in with some more questions here. It's week 2. It's Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's our final segment, Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck, Grimm and Gaard with you here this week. And Coach Fleck is with us as well. We're on the radio, but of course we're on the computer screen as well. And for those that have been watching on the computer screen, over your right shoulder behind you is a signed picture. I couldn't help but notice it here the last couple of shows of Casey OBrien and you guys embracing out at Rutgers. And then it looks like maybe a play chart or something over your left shoulder with Casey's name on it as well. I still recall that day and what a meaningful day it was. One, I want to ask your memories of that day, but I also got to ask a question with Casey's health history. What is his situation with COVID lingering? Can he be around? Can he be part of this team? And he was such a valuable piece of this team from an inspirational standpoint.
Yeah, the doctors have done a great job. And I know some of it's frustrated him by, early on not having him around. And then when we were able to come back, having him back, very, very limited amount of time. And now as we continue to move forward into the season, again, limited just to make sure that as we continue to get all of our protocols right and continue to be able to have all the testing policies. But, the number one thing is his safety. And he wants to play football. He wants to have an amazing year. And we do too for him. So we're going to continue to follow all the guidelines and policies that keep Casey safe, period. And that's what we're going to look forward to. When he can be here, Casey's here, period. Casey's all here. It isn't like Casey's somewhat here. He is all here. Yeah. And you can experience Casey being here, and everybody has. So we're really glad, really thankful that he's back. And, this is my office. This is my favorite wall because this wall, I don't know if you can even zoom out. But this is from plays from the year. 85% of this is from plays of last year. And then just some really unique things. So I don't know if this is what you want to do. But
yeah, we'll do a tour.
Yeah. This is from Mike Krzyzewski. I've always been a big Mike Krzyzewski fan, and I went on his radio show and he sent that. Just kind of pan out, Mossy, and I'll just kind of go around. But these are all the plays. Sorry, it's backwards. But these are all the plays. I mean, this was Tanner Morgan's record-setting, Purdue day. Obviously, Casey. That was a one-handed catch at Auburn. The fourth down play with Bryce Witham that won us the Auburn game. That was the Bull victory against Georgia Tech. Jordan Howden's catch interception right there. It's kind of glared, but that's the catch against Penn State. John Celestine pointing to the sky after his dad died. That was the Illinois game. Right after that, me picking up Chris Williamson because it's Chris Williamson. Last year, 2 years ago, winning the Axe for the first time in 15 years. Rashad Bateman's breakout game against Indiana. Heather and I holding the Axe. Antoine Winfield's game against Fresno 1 year. And then side-by-side with the same thing happening against Fresno. The 3rd and 30 against Georgia Southern, College game day. Chris Ottman's bell catch against Fresno. Different things our people work up for us and paintings. This is from the band. This is one of my favorite deals here. They kind of drew a row the boat with me and a band member or a player and a band member rowing the boat. And then every band member wrote me a message, which was really cool. Heather and I love John Legend. We loved John Legend before Michael Brown Stevens was on our team. So this is the lyrics of one of our favorite songs with the Bull Trophy. That's how my wife incorporates all that. We sent Alec Trebek an oar in Jeopardy because of his cancer battle, and he wrote our team letter back. New Jersey State Police saying how well-behaved our players were. Proclamation of Maroon and Gold Fridays. I can go on and on.
Pretty cool.
Pretty cool. And this is just one wall. So every year we'll just continue to change some pictures from what's been really special in that particular year. But it just reminds you had really special moments and memories so you don't forget. Too many times we just keep going to the next thing. And as I sit at my desk, which is over there, looking at this wall, that it just reminds you of, we're building something really special.
Grimmer, it's in your office. You've got stuff back there. Show us what's in your little man cave there.
I was just going to ask if you had a picture of what your picture. I do have here. I'll hold this one up. I do have a little miniature Floyd of Rosedale on my desk.
I like that.
Back. That'll be. That's let's see. Is that a home game? Yeah, that's a home game this year. So
we have no idea. Who knows? Schedule. I don't know. Maybe we'll see where we're playing.
So far, the schedules that it has been a home game, but I've got a few things. I got Goldie back there that I just put up specific for the show. Not Goldie Locks like you read to the team last week. This is Goldie Gopher here. Yes.
You just gave me another idea.
There you go.
That's it. Well, I'm in my kitchen, and I've got my Outback Bowl poster. By the way, if there was a bill from the hospitality room at the team hotel in Tampa for a couple of Outback Bowl posters, that was Grimm and me. He's got mine. I've got his. My wife and kids are gone right now, so I took some liberties in the kitchen. Unfortunately, that's not normally there. When we first got back from Tampa, I put that poster in a couple of different spots to see if it would stick. My wife's not quite in the boat yet. I don't know what else we have to do here. She's not quite in the boat for Gopher decor in the main areas. So she's gone. I took some liberties to throw it over my shoulder for the show today.
I think you should
to get some Gopher stuff in our house. I had to give up on my closet. So I'm not in the closet anymore. I just get some Gopher stuff down in the basement. So it was a good trade.
There's a room in my house where all my stuff goes. That's usually where that poster is. I had to go get it out of the one room where all my stuff goes, and it's the smallest room in the house, which isn't a coincidence at all.
That's pretty good.
But if I gave you a tour, you'd see that my closet here has all my clothes in it. This is my closet. So.
That's pretty good. Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you, too, a little bit off topic, but I know your team has been really involved in a lot of social justice issues, social injustice issues for that matter. Last week, the university announced that they would be allowing athletes to not practice on election day, which is in your season, and it's a Tuesday, which is a big practice day for you. So I was interested in your thoughts. I would assume you'll be adjusting the schedule, and what your thought is on allowing students the opportunity, and student athletes and your players, to get out and have their voice heard in the ballot box.
Oh, absolutely. All you have to do is have 1 week off or 1 day off per week, so we can always manage that. That's already in the works. That's already in our plan as we continue to move forward. Always has been, always will be. I think Seth Green has done a great job of really taking the lead as a player representative, and having him and I discuss a lot of the social injustice and topics of what we're going to do for change. Not only that, making sure that all of our players are registered to vote, all of them are ready to go to be able to make a difference and to be able to have a voice. And, I think that's what this country's all about, is being able to have a voice, make a difference, create change, and voting gives us a chance to do that.
Guardsy?
What's it been like watching your team this summer and leaders evolve, and maybe players all over the country, but certainly here in Minneapolis, find their voices? They were part of a lot of the protests. They were a lot of part of the movements for change. What's it been like for you as their coach to see them use their voices in that positive way?
Well, you're incredibly proud. You're like a proud parent, because, when everything happened, they didn't turn to negativity. They didn't turn to violence. What they did, they turned to protesting in a very healthy way. They got a chance to do things maybe they haven't done before. They got to experience things maybe they haven't experienced before. They felt things maybe they haven't felt before, or have felt that. We had a lot of team meetings and a lot of open discussions, and continue to still have those meetings. Seth and I met in my office yesterday about a lot of the things that our football team is doing as we continue to move forward. And this isn't just do one thing and it be done, check a box. This is about making change for the future, and making sure that our young people have the ability to know they can change racism in America, period. They can. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in one day. They have the ability to raise their children one day as a blank slate, as it comes out of the womb, to be able to not talk about, hey, you have to act this certain way when you walk into this neighborhood, or when you talk to this type of person, you have to talk this way, or when you do get pulled over, this is what you have to do. And it's one of those things that's the generation. I said from day one when I got interviewed right after the things were happening in our city, and I said, this is the generation that can actually change it. And but it's going to take a while, and it's going to not happen overnight. And we can't just get frustrated and throw our hands up. We've got to continue to move forward, continue to advocate for change, and to continue to make sure we do it by connecting people, not dividing people. And I think that's what our team has done. I'm really proud of them. I love every single one of them for who they are as people, and I want them to be an example of what America can look like moving forward by how we play, how we interact, how we come together as a team. And every day we're moving towards that closer and closer.
Well, very good, Coach. That will do it. We're getting inching ever so closer to that opening weekend as well later next month. So a lot of things certainly unfolding. Best of luck the rest of the week practice-wise this week, and continued success here. And I guess what we would term the kind of a training camp mode with a lot of other stuff mixed in.
I appreciate it, guys. Really good to see you. Hopefully see you at practice here soon. But row the boat, Sky and Mod. Go Gophers.
All right, very good. Guardsy, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, man. Be good.
All right, that is Gopher Football Weekly with PJ Fleck from Learfield, IMG College.